Good evening, everyone. We're going to start in a couple of minutes. I know there are more people joining imminently. Well, I think we can get going.
All right. Would you like me to give the normal speech of how to participate in our Zoom meetings? I think see
Yes,
a lot of
please.
new faces.
Yes, please. Well, thank you.
Awesome. All right. Well, welcome everyone. If this is your first time joining us for one of our virtual Zoom committee meetings, or maybe the first time in a very long time, we're glad to have you. You'll notice first thing right off the bat that you're currently muted and you're not going to be able to unmute yourself on your own. The only people who will be unmuted at any given time are our committee chair, Paul, and any presenters as we move through the agenda. Following each presentation or agenda item as we move through the meeting, Paul is going to call on members of the public who wish to speak. You can participate by going to the reactions icon on your device and pressing the raise hand button. It's not the wave or the thumbs up, as those will disappear. Only press the raise hand button once. If you press it a second time, your hand will go back down. If you're calling in from the phone, it's *9 to raise your hand and *6 to unmute whenever you're called on. Be on the lookout for a prompt asking you to confirm unmuting once Paul calls on you. The chat is available for technical support only to help with Zoom software problems. It's not to ask questions of Paul or the presenters. They will never see those chats. If you're using an older version of Zoom, you'll go to the participants section where you'll find the raise hand feature there, or you might if you're using an older version. And finally, we encourage you not to raise your actual hand or wave at the screen to get our attention. If you're having problems, chat me or Rose. We're here for support. And with that, I can hand it back over to Paul, and I think we can get started.
Thank you very much, Will. So my name is Paul Crickler. Welcome to this meeting of CB8 Roosevelt Island Committee. I'm Paul Crickler. I'm the chair of this committee. I want to recognize the other two members of this committee who are actually on this call, Judy Birdie and Jimmy Starachi. So thanks for being here, everyone. We have a nice agenda here. As published, the agenda is, first of all, the REOC update. This will be in particular a focus on the working advisory groups, if I have that name right, resident participation, in other words. The second on the agenda is an update on COLA about some massive flood mitigation work that's being planned, very early stages of being planned, and this is the checking in with the community bit of that work. On the agenda, the third point is with Christina Delfico, saving our food scrap program, compost program. And then fourth, Tibor Crisco is going to talk about environmental sustainability here on Roosevelt Island. I'm going to change the order very quickly, just for one quick thing. I'm going to ask Christina to go first because I know yours is very quick, Christina. So if we could please unmute Christina Delfico. Thank you.
Go ahead, Christina.
Thank you so much. Hi, everybody. I just wanted to hop on and let you know that we are in a fight to save the food scrap for compost program. And I have 4 short slides to share with you. They are about to be evicted from the Parks Department. They kind of live under the Queensboro Bridge. And this is a little recap of what they've given to our community and a call to action. So since 2015, Roosevelt Island has had a food scrap drop off. And through the years, up until December of 2023, we collected over 300,000 pounds of food scraps from our neighbors. So think banana peels. And those were converted into rich, nutrient-rich compost right here under the Queensboro 59th Street at Koch Bridge. And this facility right under the bridge that you're seeing a picture of now, they spent about $500,000 to prepare it to be a really great site to take food scraps, and a couple months later, they would be this rich compost. So that is what we are fighting to restore. Next slide, please, Will. You might say, why does this matter? Well, the city budget cuts cut the funding December of 2023, and we could no longer collect the food scraps. But these are just a few of the places that this rich compost came back to this island, less than 2 truck mile trips away, very sustainable. Trucks of this rich compost would come back to the 217 school, go back weekly for people on the island to use in their house plants, tree pits, planting of the 100 new trees at Lighthouse Park. Also, just now, you might have heard something in the New York Times about the Miyawaki method forest. We'll be planting 1,000 baby trees down at South Point Park, and Big Reuse just donated 40 cubic yards of that rich compost. Needless to say, this has been feeding our community, enriching our soils. Why is it important? Because we're all worried about flooding, and rich, amended, good soil that isn't compacted grabs water way better in rain and flood events and storm surges. So that is how this program has come back to us. Next slide, please. Here are just a few images. We've had over 100 volunteers participate in our local all-volunteer Haki Compost Collective. Haki was the name given to us by the Lenape, and H-A-K-I means ground and earth. And we have been feeding our soils. Literally, the health of soil equals the health of people, and our community has really been on the receiving end of this great work. About 115 people work for Big Reuse and Grow NYC and Earth Matter and such in this compost industry. They're all about to get laid off, and this is really a shame. Next slide, last slide. So basically, you may have seen this campaign with orange bins around the neighborhood. So the difference between community collecting your banana peels for parks, let's say, is that those, when we have the green bins and we're on the corner, that is going back into the earth, that is amending the soil. The orange bins, different solution, but completely different. Meat, plastic bags, and fish, bones, and your veggies all go to the Newtown Creek wastewater facility and get burned up for methane gas, which much of which is captured to run that same Newtown Creek facility. Sadly, some of it does, the methane gas, have to be released into the air, which is way worse than carbon dioxide. And then there's about 20% remaining sludge that no farmer will take, and that goes to landfill. So is it better than landfill? Sure. Is it compost? No. So this also did not come with a lot of how you would say education and awareness. So people really don't know what to do. So my call to action is that please call, and we'll drop this in the chat if that's something that we can do. Please call Julie Menon's office and ask her, her number is 212-860-1950, and ask her to please refund the budget to restore community compost, food scrap to compost, and to ask parks not to evict Big Reuse from their site underneath the Queensboro Bridge. Our neighborhood has really benefited, and it's really brought a lot of people together, and we use it. We use it to amend our gardens, our landscape, our forests, and our tree pits. So That's the spiel. We really hope that you can give her a call. She has signed a letter. The reason she's important is because she sits on the Parks Committee and the Sanitation Committee. So those are the two groups that can change this and ask for refunding. So any questions, I'll be happy to take. And thanks for listening and for all your support for all of our sustainability initiatives for over a decade, probably more. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Christina. You have one question so far from Frank France.
Frank, you can unmute.
Thank you. Hi, Christina. Very much support your effort. Thank you for letting us know. I wearing one hat right this second, which is a member of the Manhattan Solid Waste Advisory Board. Certainly, what Christina is describing is called anaerobic digestion, and that's actually has the hazards of burning methane or even releasing methane, which is 28 times worse than the equivalent of carbon dioxide. So that's definitely not good. And we're also in support of restoring the funding for the composting, because that's really good. And a side benefit we've discovered from studying this was, aside from actually the composting, is that overall the program offers better community outreach and education than an orange trash can or whatever that is called there. So that's a good thing. The last thing I would say in terms of flooding, helps a little bit, but not significantly. But anyway, in support. Thank you. We'll follow up.
Thank you, Frank. Next, we can go to Valerie Mason. Valerie is the chair of this community board, so thank you, Valerie. Valerie, can you hear?
Valerie, you're unmuted on the phone, but maybe your phone is the mute on your phone.
Can you text to Will if you can?
Okay, thank you. Got it. Thank you, Will. Good evening, everybody. Thank you, Paul. Christina, thank you for your presentation. I would ask that you come to our full board meeting, our next full board meeting, and maybe if you could do it briefly in 2 minutes. We're also going to be having a sanitation committee meeting relatively soon that's going to look at composting and everything that's happening. So that might also be a good meeting for you to attend. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Can we unmute Christina, please?
Thank you. Yes, just send the dates. That'll be terrific. And I just wanted to add to what Frank said. Actually, there are studies where the compost amended soil does absorb 30 to 60% more water. So it's got a lot of benefits, and we're just learning about it now. So don't worry if we're all learning together. But those hubs of where we met each week and received the compost from the food scraps from people became a place to exchange ideas. It was really a meeting hub. So Frank's right. It's I think even for the electeds, it's a place where there are a lot of voters, a lot of people that are civically engaged. So it served many, many purposes we found out throughout the time. So thank you for this time, and nice to meet everybody. Most of you I know. I appreciate everything you're doing on Roosevelt Island and beyond.
Christina, thank you so much, and thank you for everything you do all the time for this. And looking forward to seeing you on Saturday at the planting of your pocket forest. So thank you for that. The next item we're going to go to is the REOC update. Let's turn the microphone over to Bryant Daniels, please. Thank you, Bryant.
Hey, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yep.
Good evening, everybody. Brian Daniels, Communications Director for REOC. Pleasure to see everybody again tonight. Thank you guys for coming. Thanks, Paul, for, as always, hosting these meetings, and Will and everybody else at CB8. We really appreciate it. Just going back very quickly to piggyback off what Christina was saying, we do have that pocket forest planting in South Point Park this coming Saturday, April 6th. We had over 333 volunteers sign up for the different planting slots, which run from 11 a.m. to 2:30. It'll be the first Miyawaki method pocket forest planted in New York City, the 200th that Sugi has planted overall. It's a really sort of special addition to the island that we hope can serve as something of a good way of promoting this method in other sort of urban centers that aren't usually necessarily conducive to pocket forest planting and stuff like that. So if you guys want to stop by South Point Park, we have a lot going on. A ceremony starts at 10:30, and we're really excited about it. Segueing into what Paul had mentioned earlier, so just have a couple of updates, but we'll start with the community working groups, which is kind of the big ticket item. This was an idea that was presented by the community. I know Dave Stone had mentioned doing it. Howard Pollavy had mentioned doing this. And it was something that the REAC interim leadership team really took seriously, this idea of convening working groups filled with different members of the community on a lot of the big topics that are facing the island in some form or fashion, whether it be economic development, whether it be capital projects. So the decision was made to start doing outreach a couple of weeks ago to see if there would be interest in joining these working groups. And the first working group that we launched was related to the tramway management and the cherry blossom season, obviously, because that's coming up. We are now right in the throes of it. And we wanted to bring folks together, people that are usually engaged, but we also are looking to get folks that aren't necessarily usually engaged, aren't always on the community board meetings, aren't always at the board meetings. Bring everybody together and try to hear different ideas about what's the best way to handle some of these situations that arise from all the additional tourism that comes. What can we do to improve some of the tram management that's within the scope of our capabilities? So we did a roll call to see who might be interested. We had 25 people sign up for the first community working group, which I think actually probably exceeded even our own expectations about what it might look like. And we held our first meeting last week, and it was a really good discussion. It was everybody from the community. It was some of REAC's top personnel members. Gerald was on the call. Drew was there. Mary Canine, our COO, was on the call. PSD was on the call there to answer questions. And we had a nice discussion about what we're doing to try to help islanders with their travel during the season, what we can try to do a little bit better in terms of just overall management, making sure that the island remains clean, making sure that PSD is dispatched in the most effective and efficient way. And we got some ideas from there too about what we could try to do better. I know Judy's on this call. Judy had mentioned maybe a nice map that we could put together that shows the different cherry blossoms around the island to try and draw some folks north, because it isn't just that side of the western side of the island facing Manhattan down near the tram. There's cherry blossoms all over the place. So we're actually working on putting that map together right now. And hopefully we'll be able to get that in place sooner rather than later. But the point of it was that we want to hear from you. We want to hear from the community. We want to give folks a chance to come and speak directly with us and share concerns. And we just want to be present. And we want to be available. And I think the first meeting, we kept it to an hour. We did it over Teams. We try to make sure that we can accommodate folks in the evening hours. Though in the future, we may look into maybe doing it during the day just to see if it's a little easier on people. And it was really good. And we're going to do a follow-up meeting next week with the same working group. We are going to, give everybody sort of a chance to assess where things have been, assess how we ran a Manhattan shuttle bus this past weekend. The ridership on that bus actually was much higher than it usually is when we run these shuttles, which was encouraging. And, obviously now that the F train is back up and running, the hope is that some of that cramming will be alleviated. But we want to make sure that we're staying on top of it, and we want to make sure that we are managing it to the best of our abilities. So the next meeting for this working group, again, will be next week. But then we also discussed putting together other working groups in the future. The ideas we've been talking about are related to Main Street revitalization, economic development, trying to pull folks again north when they get off the tram. Tourists, we want to make sure that they're spending their dollars on the island. what can we do to encourage that sort of northern travel. The Kohler berm is another project that's now in the works, and I think we might have some folks from Kohler who are on this call. Paul, I'm not sure, but
Yes,
you know,
we do.
we're hearing about that project and where it's going. So we might put together a working group on that. And then the paved roadways project, which is, I think, probably the biggest capital project that we're kind of looking at in the near future. How do we, how do we address that? How do we make sure that we're putting our resources in the right place, making sure that the signage is correct, encouraging, micro mobility where we can. I think that's an important facet of it as well. So what we'll be doing whenever we launch those groups, we don't have that set quite yet, but we will send out an advisory again, sort of a cattle call, see who's interested in joining. We don't exactly know, if people can be on multiple working groups or not. It's really going to depend on what the feedback is, and we just want to make sure that we give everybody the chance to participate in some form or fashion. But these groups are a nice opportunity for folks to get engaged and to talk directly with us, to share concerns, and we're happy to have them. And I thank Paul for his support and obviously helping us to promote it as well. So yeah, I think I'm not sure what else to, if I can answer any questions about it, I'm happy to. And then I have a couple of other just quick points that I'm happy to update folks on.
Why don't you finish your other points first, then we can come back afterwards for any questions about this or anything else about REAC.
Other points, then I'm going to once again very happily say that the F train is back on Roosevelt Island as of this morning. After 7 long months, we are back in business. It is running full time, full scale. We had representatives from the MTA stop by the island this morning. Gerald Ellis, one of our interim leaders, and Mary Canine were there. Paul was there. Matt Wallman was there. It was a really nice little chance to highlight the fact that we are back in business with the F train. So we are encouraging island residents to use that resource again to help alleviate some of the tram travel when possible, especially on the weekends. Coming up, they're so busy. So that's wonderful. I also want to make mention of the fact that Earth Love Day, our annual Earth celebration, will be Saturday, April 20th. We will have more communications going out about that at the end of the week, just talking about some of the activities we'll be doing, what kind of bike repair, electronics recycling. We have some fun activities for kids planned. It's just a really nice time to sort of celebrate not just the planet, but the natural beauty that we get to experience on Roosevelt Island every day, which is quite unique, especially for New York City. We have so much greenery. We have so many wonderful parks, and our grounds team and our maintenance teams do a really great job maintaining the place. And we want to encourage more of that where we can. Christina is such a wonderful partner on environmental issues as well. Hopefully she can do a little seminar maybe on the pocket forest or something. We still have to work that out after we get by Saturday. But so we're excited about that Earth Love Day, April 20th, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., mostly at Meditation Lawn, but there will be some things scattered about throughout the island. And then the other thing I just want to mention is, we updated the wayfinding signage recently on the kiosks at the different transportation hubs, the tram, the subway up near the Helix. Those had not been updated in, I think, at least 4 years. So they were quite dated. So we just recently replaced them last week. There are a couple of tweaks that we still need to make to the new signage, but the reality is that these signs really need to be updated more often than they had been. And so even in the next few months, with the Pocket Forest coming, the new shop opening up in Main Street, we are going to have an opportunity to update them again. So, keep an eye out. We'll probably update them one more time in 2024, but to help tourists navigate the island, let people know that there's more, further north that they can explore. The Girl Puzzle Monument wasn't even on the old wayfinding maps. And so, that's a beautiful, monument on our island that wasn't necessarily getting the recognition it needed. So the more we can do to let folks know about some of the wonderful stuff we have, the better. And that's what we're working on. And we're working on a ton of things at the moment, but that's just a small bit of it.
Thank you, Bryant. I will say this morning when I was waiting there with other folks for the top brass of the MTA to come up the escalator, the first person actually who did come up the escalator was Judy Birdie in
It
front
was the
of
best. It was
yes,
just the best. I thought it was the funniest
in
thing
front of
seeing
everybody
Judy there.
else.
Yeah.
I will say also it was weird getting on the F train today. It was so crowded. Who are all these people on my nice MTF shuttle? I thought that was interesting. I'm so glad you're getting so many people coming forward. That's fantastic. We have people with their hands up. Let's go straight to Jimmy Starachi.
Hi. I had a thought about getting people further along on the eastern northern part of the island. As long as I've lived here, the lighthouse has never been available for viewing, meaning going in. Would there ever be considered some special events days where people might be able to do that? That would get people as far as they could possibly go up there, and it's a landmark, and I think it would be interesting.
I imagine Judy has an Judy's ready to tell you why it can or cannot be done, I'm sure. Judy? Judy knows most things about what happens on the island, I think.
Okay, you can hear me?
Yep.
Hold on. Okay. Well, first of all, yes, you can. The lighthouse inside is very, very, very tiny. It does have new stainless steel steps, and it would be safe for one person, but it was never designed to be accessible to the public. It's just very, I went in it many, many years ago, and it was very, very tiny. It's very small inside. I think Tibor's daughter could probably fit in it. So it's really tiny. And I really don't think public safety or any agency would approve people going in it. So I really, it'll just have to be a dream of the future.
But maybe what we could do is do some sort of event.
Yeah, we can do
around
events
there.
around the lighthouse. We can have Asylum Day. We can celebrate the man who built the original lighthouse. We can have lots of things. We also owe Amanda Matthews an event which never came about after the lighthouse and the Girl Puzzle were finished. And there's still more work to be done on the outside of the Girl Puzzle. So hopefully that'll be done and we can have an event up there. One thing I wanted to mention is I think Saturday, April 13th, since there's no other events so far, it's between the two, we need a table to have people gather comments about the MTA Q102 bus being changed to the 104. And we already have the description from the MTA. There's a picture of it, of the the proposal and the existing bus. And we really have to get people out on probably at the farmers market to sign that they don't, or they do want the bus changed, because we've been to Kohler and they have voiced their opinion. And it really is also up to the Roosevelt Island, the rest of us on the island to have maybe a Saturday at the farmers market, which is the most effective way to reach people. And finally, Jane, I love the bear. And now I want to know who is inside the bear. His name is Touchdown. Yes, Touchdown. And he was at the subway this morning, and it was really funny to go up the escalator and see a bear standing there.
And we have students that do that. Actually, these two that were here today were from Ithaca.
Oh, you import your bear casts?
Stay tuned, Judy. Stay tuned.
Okay, well, thank you very much. It was great taking the train this morning. It was lots of fun, and nothing's better than getting in an already crowded subway car with about 5 more camera crews going with you. So, and
You should be used. I'm sure you're used to it, Judy. You must be used to all that.
I'm not answering how long I've ridden the F train.
No, the camera grouping. Anyway, yes.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, Judy. Anybody else have any questions for Brent? Brian, sorry, for Brian.
Just really quickly, Paul, just wanted to go back to Jimmy. Appreciate the suggestion. If you'd love to be part of that Main Street Revitalization working group later on, I think that'd be great. If you want to sign up for that, those are the kind of ideas that I think we're looking for. So I just wanted to put that on your radar whenever we do the cattle call for that.
It looks like you have a 26th member now.
Well, I mean, I think the idea is try to do different new groups for each one. So that we can hear from a varied array of Roosevelt Island constituents. But yeah, I mean, please, by all means, if you're interested, sign up.
And I've heard you, Jimmy, talk about things like that, so you'd be great on that, I think.
And just also real quick, because Judy brought it up, the Girl Puzzle Monument, there is some remediation work on the cement that we have to keep doing. We are working on that, working on a long-term solution to that problem. We couldn't do any of the work anyway until the warmer spring months anyway. The concrete needs to cure in the warmer months, so we don't have it exactly figured out yet, but we're getting there.
Thank you, Bryant. Hand up from Tibor.
Brian, I'm not sure if this was, sorry if my comments are, yes, Mary. Not sure if this is containing the concrete remediation. I did notice I was going to save it, but since you brought up that issue, the wall around the lighthouse, there's a few points that seem quite degraded where the rebar seems to almost be coming through, or at least there's rust and the concrete's falling away. That's obviously not a minor thing, and maybe it's not even a REOC thing. Mary. Anyway, I can point out later with that, but if you guys are aware of where the seawall, there's a few points that seem to be getting weak. It may be more cosmetic than structural, but just one comment.
Yeah, which offline, if we could connect on it, let me know. Thank you.
Thank you, Tibor. Anything else, Tibor? Great, thank you. Thanks, Bryant. Next item is about the remediation work that's at the early starting stages for Kohler. So Laura Atlas, can you please unmute Laura? There we are. Hi, Laura.
Hello, thanks for
Nice to see
having
you.
me. Happy Monday, everyone. I hope everybody enjoyed the holiday if they were observing. So we did a presentation at REDAC last week or the week before, so I didn't want to sort of redo the same presentation. I know a lot of folks were there. I don't want to sort of spend the same amount of time, but I did want to preview for this group and, thank you, Paul, specifically for inviting us. Sort of what's going to be happening, where we are in the process. I think the most important thing to know is we are very early in the process. I know this is a conversation that's been going on for a long time. I know there have been iterations about the wall and the funding and all of this, but we are still pre-design. There has been a feasibility study done. It was done many years ago. We're still using the basis of that for what will ultimately be the design. But as of right now, we can't show you sort of a picture of what we are ultimately aiming to build. We can show you some concepts, and to that end, we're going to be doing visioning sessions. We'll be participating in the REAC working group and really looking to gain as much feedback as we can to incorporate as much as we can. I would say there are some restrictions in that this is FEMA money specifically focused on the protection of vulnerable public hospitals. So at the time when this money was first committed to the city, it was specifically for 4 public hospitals, including Kohler. And so it is difficult for us to go sort of well beyond that, but we can certainly do a lot in design and ultimately in construction to make sure that everybody is sort of able to be included in terms of the things they want to see afterward. I think the main parts that are important about the project are a few. One, the money is not just for the sort of outside ultimate flood mitigation. It is also for interior work that's been going on for years in terms of hardening the boiler system, hardening the electrical system, making sure that should water come rushing into the building ever again, that it will not sort of automatically take down the entire kind of interior infrastructure of the building. That is completed, which is the good news. The thing, though, that will truly keep this facility protected and this entire portion of Roosevelt Island, in effect, protected, is having a berm. And so the berm will sort of wrap around Kohler. It will have other components to it that, again, in visioning sessions, will get more in depth and sort of the actual mechanics of it and how it could look, how it should look, et cetera. But we just sort of wanted to introduce ourselves, introduce this project coming online. We have an email address that folks can email if they have questions. You're not going to see shovels coming anytime soon. You're not going to see tractors coming. We do have a couple of things we'll be doing in the interim while we're in this sort of pre-design phase, what we call site investigation. So there will be folks going to conduct topographical surveys, clipboards, that type of thing, nothing too fascinating. And then there will be borings done eventually. The borings they almost look sort of like the cherry picker truck, but they go down instead of up. And so they'll bore, they'll take samples of the soil. That's really where we're going to learn what we're working with here. Kind of where the water table is, what type of soil it is, how much we can do or not do with it, that we're going to find out a lot of very helpful information in that process. And so all of that should be happening over the next couple of months. And then we're looking to do the first community visioning session in the first week of May. You know, there's a lot of holidays between now and the end of April, so we wanted to make sure we weren't sort of over scheduling anybody who might be observing anything. So that will be our plan. We're going to create a website. The website is still sort of under construction, so I don't have that, but I'm going to share with Will our email address, which folks are welcome to send an email to if you have any questions. Again, there shouldn't be much happening in the next month or so that would cause questions, but we're always here. We're always happy to share. You know, we want to be available to folks. We want to make sure that we're kind of receiving the maximum amount of feedback and doing what we can with it. We're also going to be creating a survey that can be circulated outside of the visioning sessions that'll be up for a while so that people can submit feedback about what they'd like to see, what would be helpful, what would be you know, constructive and would give back to the Roosevelt Island community beyond just Kohler, understanding that, you know, we are not working on H&H specific property. We really are on REAC property, on Roosevelt Island property. We want to make sure that this is a project that is benefiting everyone.
Thank you, Laura. I'm not sure if I missed this, but do you have any idea of when actual digging work would start? Like, is it a year away, 2 years away? Rough timeline? Oh, hang on. Need to get on mute again.
Yeah, no, it's okay. Sorry. What type of work? Which type of work did you say?
A rough timeline for how long it'll take to do this sort of evaluation stage and the planning stage, and when we actually get to them.
So we're in pre-design right now. We'd like to start boring sometime in the next couple of months, you know, if not sooner. Then once the borings come back, right, we have to do the analysis from all of that. We have to do all of this work with the feedback. And then once all of that is put together, then we would basically be able to submit sort of a pre-design. Once that's approved, then we could go to the full design. So we're talking, you know, at least a year out, if not 2 years, before we have a design complete. And then construction is a whole other project.
Thank you. Thank you very much. There's a hand up from Frank.
Hello. Hi, Frank France again, wearing a different hat. I've actually, I have a fair amount of emergency management experience, including studying these and hurricanes and Roosevelt Island in particular. One of the problems that you have right now, and I don't know if you're going to address, is that you have the HESCO barriers there, which basically look like big trash cans filled with rocks.
Yeah.
I'm saying for everyone else, you know what they are.
The problem. I can show you pictures of them. They're not beautiful. It's true.
Right. And the problem with that is there's a real mismatch in height on the northeastern side, so right by the bathrooms there. So I believe you're using them in conjunction with tiger dams or something similar to that to plug up the hole so you can plug the driveway and all of that. The problem with that is because of the mismatch is that they will actually flood from the north side. They're not, so that's something in terms of elevation you'll have to deal with. The other thing I would say is that you're probably not aware that, so wave action is an important problem with respect to berms. And if you look south, if you look on the FEMA maps, it looks like they sort of stop at the southern tip. That's not actually true. We can get flooding from the sound, which almost happened during Hurricane Henri. And so that's where a flooding would come through the Hellgate, and not from the ocean. So I can share with you maps and information. I hope you're successful. But like right now, you're not protected even with
we
your
agree.
Yes,
we
okay.
fully agree with
I
that.
just
Right?
because of the mismatch in height, with the HESCO barriers. Okay.
And the HESCO barriers are really totally a band-aid. Nobody here would tell you they are a satisfactory response.
Well, they work elsewhere in the city. I've seen them work elsewhere in the city. I've done drills on that. But I'm just saying that's outside the design for the tiger dams. Okay, thank you.
Absolutely. And the idea would be to remove those once the berm is in place. Ideally, they would not continue to be there. But yeah, if you want to share any of the information with the Gmail account, I think.
Yeah, I see the account, and I'll get in touch with you and share information.
Yeah,
Great,
we'd
thank
love
you.
to. Thank you, Frank.
Thank you, Frank. Tibor next, please.
Realizing it's extremely early, Laura, in the process, but broadly speaking, do you have a sense, talking about like what the community at large would experience, are these berms that are going to be 4 feet high, 8 feet high, or totally unknown and can't comment yet?
Yeah, I mean, when we do the borings will give us a lot of information about sort of what we're actually working with. The feasibility studies that were done did have different sort of concepts and showed different elevation. When we do the community visioning session, if you weren't able to come to REDAC, and I do believe there's a video of the REDAC presentation somewhere. If there is, you can watch that. The whole presentation's in there, and there are some mock-ups of the different elevations. But when we do the community visioning session and when we do the survey, all of that information will be there as well. Again, nothing is sort of firmed up at this point, but we definitely have kind of a projection of what we're going to need to be able to do in order to create protection. I will also say that something specific to the FEMA grant is that we have to be protected at the 500-year flood plan, which is a little bit more sort of conservative in terms of protection, which is good, than what maybe another project would do, right? Other projects would say we'll get to the 100-year flood plan, which would obviously be a shorter elevation. So, you know, it is certainly going to be the more protected version, I guess you could say.
Thank you. Anything else for Laura? Laura, thanks so much for taking yet another bit of your evening out to help us out. So thank you.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to working with everyone and continuing to gather feedback. You know, I think we really want to make sure that everybody feels a part of the process, and also that the result is ultimately a vision that not just protects the facility, but also is able to capture what folks on the island want to see.
Good. Well, you've got a standing invitation to come back whenever you want to update people when the time is right. So our final presentation today was Tibor. He wants to talk to us all about environmental sustainability here on Roosevelt Island. Tibor, over to you.
All right, thank you, Paul. Yes, I feel like a little bit of a novice newbie in the group. I've only attended, I think, one other meeting really, and also particularly have her following Christina's excellent presentation. I think I take into account myself that this is really one resident's perspective, and maybe a helpful one in the sense that I've been on the island as a resident for 2 years, though around the island a good number of years longer than that. So I don't claim to know all things, but for what it's worth, at the same time, just wanted to mention a few ideas to Paul. He said, you know what, you should present this at the meeting. You can also therefore blame him this year for some of that. Let me just share my screen here, and then I will, let's see, where is the share screen option if it's given to me?
Yeah, you should be able to.
Yeah, okay. Funny, much as I use Zoom, sometimes every time you're like, it's reinventing the wheel. Okay, here we go. So keeping it brief, what I hope to share is just something that I've noticed over the years. You know, obviously we all are aware, especially in a group like this, and after Christina's presentation about the role of waste and the part it plays for environmental sustainability. And this is but one metric, and there's probably others and more accurate. But New York City generates a lot of trash. We know that. You know, this is one particular point mentions 4.4 million tons per year, and obviously Roosevelt Island is but a small part of that, but we contribute to that, and we can start with our local environment. I don't claim to be an expert in many facets of this. Many of you all do. So if there's anything incorrect, I don't mean that presumptuously. But again, as a random citizen who walks around, I noticed that there's very few seemingly there's general garbage collection points at many places and public places, but there's very limited kind of recyclable collections. I think I've seen one bin maybe at the newer soccer field after its renovations. I don't think I've seen others. My sense of the current state is that with this limited recycling, a few things I've seen, this is just literally a few spot examples. They are, of course, as always, the situation with one-offs. Not meant to say this is always happening. I know it's not, but I think this was a Cherry Blossom Festival a year or two ago, and there's our guys work really hard to collect waste. I know it's a part of it. People are just coming so fast and furious, and especially if residents and or more importantly tourists are not being respectful. That's a big part of it. We can't ever fix that, but if nothing else, it just illustrates a big part of the trash is plastics and recyclables that ideally wouldn't even go in that red bin in an ideal world. The ferry, which many of us ride, I noticed that I think this is often trash from the ferry, mind you, not from residents per se, or even tourists getting on and off. It's the staff of the ferry emptying it. The point though is it's all just a lot of it's recyclables. There's probably a lot of points to address there. So again, I don't want to say that as a simplistic example, but it's just one. And then lastly, Good Shepherd. Many of us go there for various events, public, private, faith related. And just over the years, I've never been able to properly see things recycled. And there's often a lot of plastic or otherwise recyclable waste generated from the events that are held there. And so these are just three examples that I had grabbed pictures over the last year or two. And I think both to prevent overflowing waste bins and more so ideally to properly handle that recyclable waste, I just wanted to bring this up to start as a discussion. I don't claim to have necessarily the answers. A couple of just offerings that could be starting of a discussion, or potentially as one of the working groups that Brian was speaking about would be, working with REOC to start an increased collection of recyclables in public spaces. Again, at the moment, I can think of only one. There might be others that I'm missing. And clearly, it's always helpful to identify the high priority locations, since we can't just put innumerable ones around. A couple of suggestions come here based on places that I go and have seen. Longer term aims, working with and supporting businesses to improve in their collection of recyclables. This again, an area I don't know all about because I'm not a business on the island, but it never hurts to have resident support, REOC support for that effort. Collaborating also, part of this that many of you are aware of is there's a lot of good faith efforts and warm fuzzy feelings about recycling, but the reality is in this country we need to start consuming those recycled materials in the form of recycled products, and that's, I think, vastly insufficient currently. So again, longer term here, but talking about ways to brainstorm around playgrounds, public fixtures, as well as just in the daily operations of the island to be using in whatever way that's financially doable, recycled products instead of quote virgin plastic products. That would kind of be a more closed circle to this effort. And again, touching back to Christina and the fact that there are groups that have been doing work for years, decades, who are really specialized and have way more knowledge than I do. For me, at least, as just a quote random resident, this is a reminder to say, what are ways that we can continue to brainstorm to, at least at the right times and places, unify existing groups and bring in new residents who can focus on environmental sustainability. The I Dig to Learn is an amazing group, brings in lots of folks. There are other residents, though, who might not be as interested in some of the things that are happening there, but it'd be great to wrap them into other areas. And again, this was prompted by this one particular thought and example around collection of recycled in public places. And that's pretty much it as far as this brief presentation. So I can turn that back to Paul. If there's time for discussion, happy with that as well.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming and speaking, Tibor. I'm very keen for people to come and speak at this meeting when they have ideas like this. I guess, Brian, your hand literally full, but if you can unmute Brian. So I had two suggestions so far. One is let's get a whole bunch of recycling bins and put them around in places where people tend to gather. And second thing is maybe one of your working groups, an environmental or sustainable committee. You've got at least two people on this call who might want to join that. But
Yeah,
Brian,
just very quickly to the recycling end. This actually came up in one of our constituent service meetings last year, and we did increase the number of recycle bins on the island in some of those high traffic areas. I don't have the number off the top of my head or exactly where they are, Tibor, but I can get back to you on that. And of course, we're always happy to hear about other ideas of collaboration and recycling materials. One of the groups you might want to talk to is this. We have a relatively new plogging club on the island that was started by some of the island teens, actually, and they meet weekly to go around and do some of the plogging, which helps out our ground team and collects a lot of different things. So there might be a nice opportunity there to collaborate. And then, in terms of the rest of the operations, obviously we're open to, trying to figure out better ways to improve sustainability, maybe in some of the high traffic locations, like you mentioned, not just outdoors, but indoors, like Good Shepherd and things like that. So
that sounds like if we can find a bunch of locations that make sense to you, that REOC might spend some money and get a few more recycle bins.
Yeah, I mean, well, I'll check to see, what the strategy is with the grounds team and sort of go from there, I think.
Okay, good answer. Thank you. Frank.
Judy or Margie or Howard will refine my point, but I seem to remember that the old REOC red garbage cans, the ones that we see, were particularly expensive, on the order of like $12,000 to $20,000 a piece. So if we can find something that's more economical, that would be great. And certainly the main issue, I like Tibor's presentation. I think a lot of it involves just on certain days either having extra trash cans there or having the crew on busy days rotate more frequently in terms of pickup. Thank you.
Thank you, Frank. Judy.
Okay, first of all, Frank, the garbage cans cost about $1,200 each. There were 30 of them. They have all been repainted at a car shop, auto paint. So they were all redone last year to save a lot of money because there was nothing the matter with those red cans except they needed to be cleaned and maintained. And they all went to the body shop. They look great, especially since RIAC is now cleaning the tops of them so they don't get yucky. And we desperately need more trash. I mean, the trash can next to the kiosk was packed this morning, and that's on our that's next to the kiosk. We just need many, many more trash cans, and there are portable ones that you can get. They're recycled. They're made out of recycled material, and you put a liner in and use them for special events. You see them in places like Javits Center, and a lot of places they have them because. And it's really hard to get the tourists to recycle. They just think it doesn't matter. We throw the Nathan's hot dogs paper all over the place. They throw bread on the lawn, no matter what we say. So it's really hard to get the visitors to understand recycling. But at this time of year, when we have so many visitors, we just need many, many more garbage cans, along with more portable toilets. We still don't have enough. And it's the environment, the other environment also. And okay, who was that? So anyhow, we have
we know who that was.
who dropped their child. Right. Did you drop your daughter? Anyhow, so seriously, we need many, many more cans this week. We just don't have enough. I mean, it's not on the tram platform. There's none in the tram station. There's only one at the station. So you get on the tram and you bring trash. I mean, just more cans. That's all I can say.
Thank you, Judy. Christina, please.
One thing that could be more of a stretch goal, I think, is that Governor's Island has become like a no waste island, and they set up different bins with very clear pictures of what goes into which thing. Without education, you can have as many blue bins, which have been added to the island for recycling, and black ones for landfill. Nobody knows what that means. Everyone just puts their stuff in there. But one thing that back in the day for New York City's film and television, when we were doing waste reduction on different television productions, we focused on by example. So all of the events and all of like CBS and HBO, they would make sure that they didn't use plastic water bottles, that they never used balloons with the string that can strangle the geese. They were very conscious to make sweeping, take in, take out, pretend you're camping. This is a park. We respect our island. So it was kind of messaging at the top and then event examples of low waste, and Brian is working hard with us to do that for the pocket forest. But I think that that's something that can change over time with some goals, and I love what Tibor said. Thank you for caring about that.
Thanks, Christina. Anybody else have anything on environment? That looks like it's the end of this meeting. Anybody else have any old business or new business?
I do actually think you have a piece of new business. If he wants to raise his hand.
Who's that? How exciting.
It is, just want to make sure I have the right person's name. Brandon is your new librarian and wanted to introduce himself.
Oh, brilliant.
He's still there.
Thanks, Brandon.
Hey, yes. Hey, so I'm the new guy in town. I've met a few of y'all already. I've been here for about 3 weeks now. So I figured I'd come to the meeting and formally introduce myself to the rest of you guys and highlight some programs. Yeah, I'm happy to be here. But that's more or less it. I know I met Judy and Christina, but most of you I haven't met already. But yeah, my name is Brandon.
Thank you,
and
Brandon.
I'm happy
Did
to
you
be
come from a different library in the system?
Yeah, so I'm let me, you guys can't see me, right? Let me unmute my
Yes,
camera.
thank you. Yes.
Here we go. Yeah, so I was managing a branch in the Lower East Side, Hamilton Fish Park. With all the budget cuts, there's been a lot of restructuring and reshuffling in my organization, which brought me to this lovely island. But I've been with the organization for almost a decade now, and
Wow.
that's been my pleasure. It's definitely a 180 from the Lower East Side, but everyone in the community I've met so far has been very welcoming, and it's been a pleasure so far. I think most of you guys are probably already familiar with everything that we've been doing, but I wanted to highlight one program that's new that we have. Um, we're going to have a community workshop on Wednesday.
Brandon, we're missing the most important bit. We just at the workshop bit, you went all into very fuzzy because I think you're cutting out on us. Can you hear me?
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. Start with the
Yeah, I
workshop
could
again.
hear you.
I can hear it. Yeah, go for it.
Okay. So it's like we're branding it as artivism. That's the the phrase we're using, but it's basically gonna be like a community art workshop series that we're gonna have on Wednesdays in May on the 1st, the 8th, and the 15th from 5 p.m. to 6:30. That's gonna kick off with a community or end rather with community showcase on May 22nd at 5 p.m. You guys are welcome to come into the library and ask any questions. Danielle, our adult librarian, is going to be hosting it with one of the local artists on the island.
Brilliant. Thank you, Brandon. We've got some people I think want to say something to you. Judy?
And Brandon, if you don't mind, we did have a request for you to give your contact information. If you want to chat it to me, I can put it into the chat for everybody else.
Yeah, I'm happy to do that.
Judy, you're unmuted.
Okay, all I want to say is tomorrow's election day. I expect to see you between 6 a.m. and 9 p.m. at PS 217. Very few people voted early voting. And so I expect to see a lot of you, your friends, your family. Remind everyone, it's not an exciting election, but it's our privilege to vote. So please come to 217, 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you, Judy. Bryant?
I just wanted to say to Brendan, welcome to Roosevelt Island, and I actually sent you an email about an hour ago, so just keep an eye out for that.
Brandon, welcome so much to the island, and hope you enjoy your work here. I'll stop in soon and say hi on the next time I walk past. I encourage everybody else to do the same thing. I think we're gonna.
Wonderful. Thank you all.
You're welcome. We're gonna finish this before the hour's up. Do I have to do anything, Will, like motions and things to finish, or can we just say good night to everyone?
Motion to adjourn from anybody who's on the board. I see Judy Birdie.
Seconded, Jimmy?
I hear a second, and it's adjourned.
Brilliant. Good
Just
night,
like that.
everybody. Thank you for coming.